Several of President Trump's first actions mark a stark departure from former President Biden's climate policy. Trump is withdrawing the U.S. from the Paris Climate Accords, ending tailpipe emission standards, and pledging to boost energy production.
We will drill, baby, drill. America will be a manufacturing nation once again. And we have something that no other manufacturing nation will ever have, the largest amount of oil and gas of any country on earth, and we are going to use it.
Let's bring in former Undersecretary of Energy for Science under the first Trump administration, Paul Dabbar, for more. Paul, thanks so much for coming on. You know, President Trump talks about an energy emergency. The U.S. set a record for oil production during the Biden administration, and we've seen significant increase in clean energy projects in the U.S. So what does that mean that we're facing an energy emergency?
Yeah, so if you take a look at prices, I think, as everyone knows, the president talked a significant amount about inflation and how it flowed through the market. And energy inflation is probably the most pernicious of all inflation because it flows through, shipping and food and the logistics of things coming to your house. And so energy prices are significantly higher than they were under his first administration, not just in oil and gasoline, but in power. You see the AI revolution that President Trump was a big trigger of, buying the first GPUs. Now we have an AI revolution, and the power demand is going up significantly because of that, and power prices are up a lot for the American consumer. So increasing production of energy across the board to help drive inflation, and also producing energy in the U.S. produces significant jobs.
So what can Trump do to boost energy production?
Yeah, so the energy emergency declaration that he signed last night speeds up siting. I think everyone in this country knows it's very, very hard to build things. Some roads that are like 10 miles take 10 years for approvals. I think that's a bipartisan point around how do we get things built easier in this country, faster, and that means cheaper also. So the energy emergency declaration of speeding the way to build, baby, build, to use a pun, an analogy. And then he also issued an order around unleashing American energy. And so the biggest one yesterday, I think, for the energy industry is the removal of the LNG pause, which he had put a block on new exports to Europe and elsewhere, Japan, Korea, all our friends who were blocked on that. He issued an order on that also last night.
Now, I know you've invested in renewable energy sources in the past. Do you expect to see any focus on developing renewable energy?
Yeah, so under President Trump the first time, he was very much about all the above, and literally whether it was oil, gas, renewables were accelerating at actually much faster rates than under Biden, including renewables. So the president, all the above, he has a great track record last time, and actually during that time frame, all of the costs of those technologies were significantly dropping. So it benefited customers not only in terms of energy production, but under President Trump last time, emissions, the U.S. led the world in the reduction of emissions under his time frame. So all the above worked last time, and somewhat returning back to that is almost certainly going to return to that leadership, both in inflation and in the environment.
The president also says he will end the Green New Deal and revoke the electric vehicle mandate. Now, that established an average of emissions allowed across a vehicle manufacturer's entire fleet of offered vehicles. So why pull back on that?
Yeah, so the president has been very, very clear that he's supportive of all the above types of vehicles, and he's been very supportive of of EVs, but he just doesn't want to support it. He doesn't want to mandate it. If people want to buy it, I think he says that's great. And so President Trump was very, very clear about his view around energy, which was rather than industrial policy, aka the Green New Deal, and putting up tens of billions of dollars in very specific projects for very specific companies, is to support early stage innovation and discovery of new technologies. And most of the stuff that we're deploying today was supported by the Department of Energy and the old Manhattan Project labs, the current national labs, and inventing new technologies. And that worked. A lot of stuff that we're developing today, whether it's LNG or even more edgy technologies like fusion, I think could be coming up in this next 4 years.
And Paul, California Governor Gavin Newsom responded to Trump's climate actions with a statement showing photos of the devastating wildfires in California. And he says, quote, "If you don't believe in science, believe your own damn eyes." So what do you say to those concerns that Trump's policies could worsen the effects of climate change and the natural disasters that come with it?
So once again, under President Trump, the U.S. led the world in emissions reductions. And where's the real problem? The problem is China. China emits more than the whole OECD, the whole Western democracy world combined. And so I think one of the biggest challenges that need to be addressed in terms of energy and emissions in the world is how to actually get China, the largest producer of emissions in the world by far, and they continue to grow. Even though they are building nuclear and renewables, they are the dominant producer of new power plants that are highest emissions in the world. So I think there's a lot of diplomacy that's required, and maybe other action is required, as the president has talked about, to go to bring to bear what's happened in China and try to make a difference for the world.
All right, former Energy Undersecretary for Science under the Trump administration, Paul Dabbar. We appreciate your time today, Paul. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane.